Om Tavagatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhuvignanti Ye Bhurita Janaha. Your Kathamrita, your words of immortality, full of divine glories, is praised by the sages. They are auspicious to hear. They destroy sin and the threefold miseries of life. Those who accept and spread thy glories, O Lord, are the greatest benefactors of this world. Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are on page 151. The last few lines. Sri Ramakrishna had been discussing what is samadhi. Now, this has been a fascination of the human mind forever. And in today's world, that has kind of become diluted. The idea of samadhi, etc., it's such a profound state. And it has been kind of reduced to sometimes just a few, you can say, sensations which are mistaken as this profound state. So Sri Ramakrishna had said, after a man has attained samadhi, all his actions drop away. All his karma drops away. That is, all his religious duties as well as his secular duties also. Because the effect is so profound, it completely overturns your perspective of what life is, what the world is, what destiny is, what karma is, everything. You are not the same person anymore. So the person who is progressing or the person who is not enlightened, that person keeps on doing some things to go towards God. Or that person thinks, I have this duty, that duty, these responsibilities, and they keep on doing, and which is extremely important, because that's what holds the person and society together. But when the entire thing has become revealed, the reality that is, so these things don't matter at all. And Sri Ramakrishna gives his own example, that when I went to the Ganges to do tarpan, that is, like you can say, tarpan is a form of taking water in the hands and offering it in the water itself for the ancestors. And so he couldn't do it. So the moment he took his hand for tarpan, the water just seeped away through the gaps between the fingers. And he couldn't do it. And then he says, he's weeping to his and telling his cousin, who's Haladari, saying, what happened? I cannot do even this simple thing. So his cousin had said, this is what is called Galita Hasta. That is, at this stage, after Samadhi, you cannot do all these duties. Your duties fall away. Okay. Then he gives an example. Then he says, after the vision of God, such duties as the performance of tarpan drop away. So all these duties and all these things are necessary for us in the state of bondage to take us to the state of freedom. And when you reach freedom, all those things which you had done becomes illusory. Then he gives an example. In the Kirtana, this is the part where it actually commences today's work. In the Kirtana, the devotee first sings Nitai Amar Matahati. Kirtan is a congregational singing and dancing. It's a religious singing and dancing. It was popularized by Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda to get people together and unify them. Secondarily, and first to praise the Lord. So he had popularized this form of spiritual discipline, congregational singing and dancing. So in the Kirtan, the devotee first, Nitai Amar Matahati, as the devotional mood deepens, he simply sings Hati, Hati. Next, all he can sing is Hati. And at last, all he simply sings is Ha and goes into Samadhi. The man who had been singing all the while then becomes speechless. So, Nitai Amar Mattahati, that is, my Nitai dances like a mad elephant. Who was Nitai? This was Sri Chaitanya's companion, Nityananda. So, he was Nimai. Nimai Pandit, they used to call him Nimai, and he was Nitai. Okay. So when they used to congregate and sing, so quite often this was one of the songs people used to. It's a long song. It's giving you a glimpse of it. It's like, my Nitai dances like a mad elephant. The elephant may look like this, huge and ungainly. But if you ever get a chance to see elephants dancing, you should. They're very graceful. And not only that, with grace, there's that power. So that's why, and then when the elephant is maddened, as it were, maddened with devotion, then it becomes even more better. The dance is compared to a devotionally maddened Nitai, compared to an elephant. So here Sri Ramakrishna is saying Nitai Amar Mattahati. Then he's saying, then as the tempo keeps on increasing and increasing, and in the Kirtan, they start slow. Those who have joined or seen, they start slow and then they pick up the tempo slowly and slowly until they reach the crescendo. And as the tempo keeps on getting higher and higher, so there it is only Hati, Hati. That person does not have many people. They don't have even the strength, or their mind has become so absorbed, somehow only the Hati, Hati they do. And as the mood deepens even further, it will be Ha and yes. Now, what happens is, this also, Sri Ramakrishna's words, at times they are so, you can say, concise and so illuminating. The whole, you can say, doctrine in the Upanishads as in the Bhagavad Gita, how one gets into this state called samadhi. Yached vang manasi prajna tad yached jnana atmani mahati niyached, etc. So one must merge one's speech or all the senses in the mind, and then one must merge the mind in the intellect. So what is happening is, it is a kind of a resolution of things. It's telescoping one thing into another. That means you're going deeper inside. You merge the senses into the mind, and the mind into the intellect, and the intellect into the knowing self, and the knowing self into the greater self. We have kind of come out. The more externalized you are, the more the chances of getting into samadhi and meditation and japa are nil. But the more you get inside, the more you get into that inner state. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, the verse, to paraphrase it, the mind, the senses are greater than the body, and the mind is greater than the senses, and the intellect is greater than the mind. So what we are trying is showing us that gradually there is an interior journey that's happening. It is more like an ascent. We have descended, so we have to get into the. So Nitai Amar Matta Hati, then is saying Hati, and Ha, and get. So it is getting deeper and deeper. See, when you are profoundly moved by something, you become, as it were, silent. You become speechless. You cannot say anything. So when you're overwhelmed with this divine fervor, your speech stops. When your speech stops, that is all the indriyas, the senses, your mind stops. And when the mind stops, the buddhi, the intellect also stops. And when that buddhi, intellect stops, your individual consciousness, that also stops, as it were, is suspended. That is called, in other words, the deepest concentration. The other meaning of samadhi is concentration. The other meaning is sama and dhi. Sama is the same, equanimity of the dhi, buddhi. When the buddhi, the individual consciousness with intelligence, has become perfectly still, that is called the state of samadhi. Now, there's an illustration, upama, in the Bhagavad Gita also. Yata deepo nivatasti. When a lamp placed in a windless place remains unmoving, this is the comparison of the mind of a yogi. So that is perfectly still. And at that stage, you cannot, ordinary duties, thinking, speaking, hearing, seeing, all these things stop. So the man who had been singing all the while then becomes speechless. Now he gives this illustration, then he explains also the state through another illustration. Again, At the feast given to the Brahmins, at first one hears much noise of talking. Those who have seen these big bhandaras, the people are invited and they're made to sit down. And really, when we sit down in the kind of a row after row in monks in Belur Mutt, we see that the huge, you can see, uproar when we enter. Those who have been to Belur Mutt will know. When they enter and take their seats, there's a lot of talking, a lot of going, exchanging notes and everything, getting news, giving news. So they first hear a lot of noise. When the guest sits down on the floor with leaf plates in front of them, that's a style of eating in India. It was mainly. Now, so plantain leaves, of course. And much of the noise ceases. So when they are sitting down, when they're entering in the dining hall, in the pangal, there's a lot of noise. And then when they sit down, and then noise comes. Because you have to say your prayers before eating. I don't know if you all do pray before eating or all, but that is the protocol. Before eating, you must pray. So noise comes down. Then after the prayers and all, then one only hears, bring some luchi, etc. There is a luchi and this aloo dum. Okay. So he'll bring the deep fried, you can say, flatbreads. As they partake of the luchi and other dishes, all the other dishes, 3/4 of the noise subsides. So noise is subsiding slowly. As they're eating, because you cannot talk and eat. So as they're eating and as the stomach is getting full, the noise level also going down. When the curd, that is yogurt, the last course appears, one hears only the sound, soup, soup. Because when you have a leaf plate, and that's an expertise that one develops, that when you can scoop your curds or the yogurt from that leaf plate, and when you do that, it's the soup, that sound kind of. And as a guest eat the curds with their fingers, of course. Then there is practically no noise. Afterwards, all retire to sleep and absolute silence reigns. So after the food is over, they get up, they wash their hands and the mouth, etc., and then they rest. Kind of siesta. So everything is held. So he's giving, Sri Ramakrishna has obviously observed this very thing, and many times. So he sees how slowly the level of noise decreases as activities keeps on unfolding, and then there's complete silence. That's why a person who is active, running about, and suddenly, slowly his activities get diminished, and as they get diminished slowly, that person in samadhi, when he goes into samadhi, he becomes perfectly still. There is no movement at all. That's why then Sri Ramakrishna says, therefore, I say, at the beginning of religious life, a man makes much ado about work. But as his mind dives deeper into God, he becomes less active. Last of all comes the renunciation of work, followed by samadhi. Like karma tyaga. So, but this happens as a natural consequence. You must understand, it is not a kind of something that is forced or forcibly taken away from you. All your karmas are taken away from you. No. As you proceed towards the inner, you can say, realms of consciousness, these things are all left behind. They fall away naturally. You don't have to make a secondary effort. As Sri Ramakrishna likes to say, as you go towards the west, the east falls away. You don't have to do separate something to come away from the east. By going towards the west, the east falls away. So by going towards God, all other activities, they fall away. That's why he says, at the beginning of religious life, a person makes much ado. That is much. He does a lot of things. He will do this puja, and then he will do this and that, and he will do this tirtha, and he will do fasting and japa and meditation and this and that. And slowly, as his mind dives deeper into God, he becomes less active. Then what happens? He or she will be constantly absorbed in the thought of God. You don't need any external activities. That's why you have these pictures of all these saints and all. They are sitting down quietly. What are they doing? Just sitting down? Oh no. Not just sitting down. That is the highest state. Swami Vivekananda gives an example. Suppose you have a chariot and you have horses that are pulling the chariot. Suppose you let the horses run, and they will take the chariot wherever they want. You don't need to apply much force. But when you want to stop the chariot, that is, stop the horses, what do? You pull the reins that will stop the horses. Which needs more strength? Letting go or pulling? So obviously it's pulling. And when you pull, you're using more strength. So japa and meditation looks something like, oh, they are just sitting down. No, they are applying a lot of strength to keep the mind and the senses inside. So this seemingly inactivity is seeming only, but it is a manifestation of greater power, greater control. So when you see people, oh, this person has become still, what that person has done is pulled the senses and the mind. And when the senses and the mind are pulled inside, your breath also stops. Your breathing also stops. You become perfectly still. When you're breathing, everything is going around. Your breathing stops, your senses, indriyas stop, your mind stops. Everything stops because of this control. So they say, last of all comes the renunciation of work, followed by. So this is what happens. So before that person can get into this state, that all these activities go on, but as his mind dives deeper into God, he becomes less active, obviously. Last of all comes the renunciation of work. Where work, what work? All types of work. Even the functions of the body is called karma. That also is stopped. And then follows samadhi. Now he says something which is very important. Generally, the body does not remain alive after the attainment of samadhi. The only exceptions are such sages as Narada, who keep their bodies alive in order to bring spiritual light to others. Okay. Generally, the body cannot sustain that blaze of illumination, that tremendous, you can say, burst of knowledge. But the body has not been prepared. The body simply dissolves. fragments. It needs a lot of preparation. The nerves that they call the nadis, they have to become so fine and purified. It's called sukshma. And the energies that are there, that run the body, they have to become sattvic, completely sattvic. Your body, your senses, your mind, your intellect has become so pure, so sattvic. It is only in this kind of body can you experience these things. Otherwise, no. Not possible. Impossible, I would say. So the subtle body also is purified, the physical body also is purified, and then you experience this state. Now, there are various levels of samadhi. It's most probably Sri Ramakrishna means that nirvikalpa samadhi. At that stage, if you go, the body does not last. It goes. And what do you want to do with the body in that state? You have given so much value. When you come to that state, it has no value at all. So there in that state, the mind dies, the karana sharir, that also dies. That is, we have three bodies. We have the stula sharira, the physical body, the sukshma sharira, the subtle body, and the karana sharira, the causal body. These things are kind of completely off now. You come away. So at that stage, when it's like you have been suddenly through a microscope been studying a drop of water, and you see all the bacteria and all the fungi and everything moving around and all this playing, and you're watching it. It's a whole world by itself. And you have been doing that over and over and over again. Now suddenly you see the whole Pacific Ocean. Then what happens? How much value will you give to that drop of water that you are seeing? Oh, look at this water. Look at so much water. And all that water has the same thing. So, is it important? That drop of water is important to you? That ocean then. You've seen the ocean. You've seen everything. That's why he says, generally the body does not remain alive after the attainment of samadhi. The only exception are such sages as Narada, who keep their bodies alive in order to bring spiritual light to others. So these are the special, like Narada. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's a Devarshi Narada. He's a Deva Rishi, that is, even amongst the Devas, there are these Rishis. Amongst men, Rishis, oh my God, they are the worshipful ones. They are a class by themselves. They are you can say, the extremely holy ones. They cannot be compared to ordinary human beings, Rishis. So amongst Devatas also, amongst the gods also, there are Rishis. So it's even higher. So these kind of people, they keep their bodies for the good of the world, to transfer spiritual knowledge. Otherwise, who will tell you what samadhi, etc., what God is? You'll say, what is God? These people have spoken about it. How do you know? They have seen it. They saw it and they told you about this. This is called, these are the creators of the scriptures, the Shastras. These people saw God. Like the Rishi says, Veda hametam purusham mahantam. I have seen that mighty Purusha, great Purusha, Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat, shining like the, you can say, sun beyond all darkness. He said, I have seen God. When Swami Vivekananda went to Sri Ramakrishna, he's saying, Sir, have you seen God? Yes, I have seen God. He got a I see God more intensely than I see this world. So these are direct experience. They are not philosophers. These people are not philosophers, not academicians, not sadhakas. They are not all that. They are the ones who have seen the reality. I see it and I'm telling you this is what it is. So what do we do? So in Vedanta there is one of the Shat Praman, that is a 6 Pramana of the sources of valid knowledge. One of them is Shabda, that is Shastra, that is the words of the scriptures. They are the proof. I have seen. They don't do logic. These Shastras, they don't use the language of Nyaya or Vedanta, all these kind of structures. They see it directly and they say it directly. These are. So he says, it is also true of divine incarnations like Chaitanya. So he says here, even divine incarnations like people like Chaitanya, etc., they also, they bring that knowledge from that side to this side. Only their bodies can sustain that transition from that side to this side. So we stop here. We will put, if there's any questions, we can answer them. Or before we can go into the questions, Thursdays, Swami Brahmatmananda, he gives a online class on Towards the Goal Supreme. Those who receive a newsletter, a weekly email, we have a link there. Go to that. Friday, the Householder Disciples series, we're going to discuss the life of M, second part. Sunday, we have Shodashi Puja, the significance of Sri Ramakrishna's unique worship, because it is in this month where Sri Ramakrishna worshipped Ma Sharda. What is the significance of this? As we know, we have Ramnam also on Sunday, that is 7 p.m. The Sunday talk is at 10 a.m. And Mother's Children also is there in the morning. The question is, we only hear Samadhi but have not seen anyone in that state. Did you ever see a monk of the order in the state of Samadhi? So yes, I have seen. So, and it's not, they are not going to sit down. I was fortunate. They are not going to sit down in a public place and so you can see. Okay. One of those things. So, it's done. And at times, once you get into that, it is not something like if the Samadhi is extremely deep, then it can last for days and days. But sometimes you just get in and come out. That getting in and coming out itself is good enough to remove all your ajnana, ignorance. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Astu.